Shabbat Shalom, brothers and sisters. It's that moment of the week I live for lately. This has become one of my favorite things. I'm so deeply thankful for it. There are people around the world consuming this content and being blessed by the words of the Father. And that I would play even a small role in that, in the doing of His will, to bring His wisdom and His strength to you, is so deeply humbling to me. So I'm thankful to be here, and I am thankful that you are there, and that through the miracle of this technology, we get to do this. So, for this morning's Torah portion, we are going to look at Numbers 15, excerpts from Numbers 15. And the reason we're going there is because we're going to talk about tzitzi, or tzitziot, and those are tassels. Now, the Father tells us we're supposed to wear them, and I've consumed a lot of teaching on this in the last 6 months, but especially in the last 6 weeks. I was given some tzitziot by Brother Roger at a recent gathering, the Arkansas Preparedness Network's Prepper Extravaganza, and I knew what they were, and I knew that Torah-minded people wore them, and that Jews wore them, but the compunction to wear them, the conviction to wear them, was not on me. But the Father doing what the Father does. When somebody gives you something, right, you have to honor that. And so it just felt right, number one. And now I've talked about feelings, right? We can't live our lives based on feelings, things that feel right, because feelings are fleeting, right? They change like the wind, and if you don't have a compass to guide you, you're going to get lost in your feelings. But when your convictions and your feelings line up, you know you're on to something, right? So it just felt right. Well, I've had several people ask me recently, since I've started wearing them daily, what is that? Why are you doing that? Well, there's a twofold answer there. The twofold answer is this. One, I'm doing it because the Father tells us in here that we should do this for all of our generations. It doesn't say do this until the Messiah comes. It doesn't say do this until you don't feel like it anymore. It doesn't say, until such a time as your society reaches the mastery of ones and zeros flying through the air, keep this commandment. It says do this for all your generations. Last I checked, humans were still having babies, so we are supposed to continue to do this. So there's that, and then there's also, for me, and this is the purpose that it's supposed to serve. The second portion here is, it's a tactile, physical reminder. Not that we are not that we are oppressed by the commandments of Yah, but that we're reminded, physical, tactile reminder to do His will not our will. And they're there dangling. And I'll give you a great example of that. I've caught a lot of flack from a lot of people about chewing tobacco. Well, I don't chew tobacco. I chew not tobacco. I've actually been tobacco free for over a year. But the oral fixation, the cravings for nicotine have been gone for over a year. I've had 2 cigars in the last year. Not that I smoke a lot of cigars, but in a celebratory fashion, that's the only nicotine I've consumed in the last year. But I chew fake tobacco. Well, in order to get that fake tobacco can out of my pocket, my hand has to brush past one of those tzitzi every time. Now, that's not exactly what the Father had in mind. There's no commandment that I know of in here that says thou shalt not chew fake tobacco. But it's a physical, visceral, tactile reminder to be a little bit better today than I was yesterday. There's birds up in this tree, and there's squirrels fighting over another tree right over there. There's been many a time that I've reached back there to grab that can here recently, and my hands have brushed that tzitzi, and I've just left the can where it was. I don't really need a pinch. So that's the long version of the short intro I was trying to do to Numbers 15. Tzitzi. I do need some of this though. Thank you, Gordy and Lois. All right, let's get into Numbers 15. So Numbers 15 starts with the laws of grain and drink offering. And for our purposes today, we're going to skip through that. Not that it's not relevant, it's just not relevant to this discussion right now. So we're going to start at Numbers 15:22 because there's a couple of things that I want to hit here. So we're going to start at 15:22 and we're going to go to the end. Okay. So 15:22. If you sin unintentionally and do not observe all these commandments which the Lord has spoken to Moshe, all that the Lord has commanded you by the hand of Moses from the day the Lord gave commandments and onward through your generations. Onward through your generations. Then it will be, if it is unintentionally committed, this is sin they're talking about, without the knowledge of the congregation, that the whole congregation shall offer one young bull as a burnt offering, as a sweet aroma to the Lord, with its grain offering and its drink offering, according to the ordinance, and 1 kid of the goats as sin offering. So if you unintentionally make a mistake, if you unintentionally transgress the law, which is sin, according to John, sin is transgression of the law. If you unintentionally transgress the law, this is when the tabernacle still stood in the days of Moshe. This is the outline for how you deal with that. Okay. So the priest shall make atonement for, and I love the word atonement because if you just, now I realize it's an English word, right? It's a transliteration of what was an ancient Hebrew word that came out atonement, right? But atonement can be read as at one mint. If you make atonement, if you get at one with the Father, because for me, it's very easy to see that word and, that was a bad snap, see that word and know what I'm supposed to do to atone for your sins is to get at one with the Father. Big tangent there, but atonement, I love that word. Okay, so the priest shall make atonement for the whole congregation of the children of Israel, and it shall be forgiven them, for it was unintentional. They shall bring their offering, an offering made by fire to the Lord, and their sin offering before the Lord for the unintended sin. It shall be forgiven the whole congregation of the children of Israel. This is what I wanted to get into. It shall be forgiven the whole congregation and of the children of Israel, which if you are a believer, you are. Understand that the Messiah, Mashiach, Yeshua HaMashiach, is the redemptive Messiah of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who were Jews. So, not that you can't be saved by the blood of the Lamb, but you were grafted, you were a wild branch grafted onto the tree of life. Those guys with the curly tassels, right? The Jews. So we are that wild branch that's grafted in, right? We're attached to the same roots. Yes, we're a wild branch. Yes, we can bear fruit, but we have the same trunk and the same roots. And so we are to be a part of these people. We are to be holy in the eyes of the Lord, which is sanctified, which literally means set apart. And the Father says we are to be a peculiar people. You shall know them by their fruits. You should be able to look at somebody and know. People should be able to look at you and know, I want what that guy has. I need what that guy has. It's, man, I get choked up just thinking about it, because I've had people ask me, like, what's up? What do you have that I don't have? Boy, man. I've always viewed my job as sticking my foot in the door of somebody's life so the Holy Spirit can get in there and do his job, right? I need to crack the door open and stick a wedge in it. I need to make a way for the Spirit to convict and do its job. And so part of that is being sanctified, being set apart in the ways that the Father tells us. So, okay. 26. It shall be forgiven the whole congregation of the children of Israel, which we are a part. We are the children of Israel. And the stranger who dwells among them, because all the people did it unintentionally. Okay, we are part and parcel one. We are whole. I played football when I was younger. Imagine that. And one of the teams that I played for had a big hill, 45-degree hill, right off the side of the football field. And it was probably about 40 yards up the hill. And summer practices, full pads, 90+ degrees, high humidity. If we made, as a team, 32 mistakes over the course of 3 hours of practice, we ran that hill 32 times. It didn't matter if I only made one mistake. It creates unit cohesion as well. So it helps keep your tribe strong. If I'm sharing the burden of your sin with you, that creates context between the two of us. Man, I'm moving slowly, I'm sorry. 26. It shall be forgiven the whole congregation of the children of Israel and the stranger who dwells among them, because all the people did it unintentionally. And if a person sins unintentionally, then he shall bring a female goat in its first year as a sin offering. So the priest shall make atonement for the person who sins unintentionally, when he sins unintentionally before the Lord, to make atonement for him, and it shall be forgiven him. You shall have one law. 29. You shall have one law for him who sins unintentionally, for him who is native born among the children of Israel, and for the stranger who dwells among them. You shall have one law for him who sins unintentionally, for him who is native born, native born among the children of Israel, the Jews, the Hebrews, and the stranger who dwells among them, the Hebrew Israelites. the Christians coming out of churchianity, finding the way. We have one law. It doesn't matter if you're, black, white, red, brown, green, blue, purple, your ethnicity, your gender makeup, your age, your IQ, your personality type. You shall have one law. 30. But the person who does anything presumptuously, whether he is native born or a stranger, that one brings reproach on the Lord, and he shall be cut off from his people. If you knowingly transgress the law, you do it anyway out of spite. You know better, but you do it anyway. You should be cut off from your people. Because he has despised the word of the Lord and has broken his commandment, that person shall be completely cut off. His guilt shall be upon him. So, 1532, which is where we're headed next. I got an email from Pastor Joe a couple months ago. He said, brother, I've been following your videos and you're doing great, but you need to keep the Sabbath better than you have been. I said, okay. He says, I want you to go read Numbers 15:32. He didn't tell me what it said. He said, just go read Numbers 15:32. I said, okay. Now, when Pastor Joe takes time out of his day to send me an email, that carries weight to me. So I read it. And this is what Numbers 15:32 says. Now, while the children of Israel were in the wilderness, they found a man gathering sticks on the Sabbath day, on Shabbat. And those who found him gathering sticks brought him to Moses and Aaron and to all the congregation. They put him under guard because it had not been explained what should be done to him. Then the Lord said to Moses, this man must surely be put to death. All the congregation shall stone him with stones outside the camp. So as the Lord commanded Moses, all the congregation brought him outside the camp and stoned him with stones, and he died. 15:31. Because he despised the words of the Lord and has broken his commandments, that person shall be completely cut off. His guilt shall be upon them. Shall be upon him. So, the penalty for knowingly transgressing Shabbat is death, and you'll be cut off from your people. Now, I think especially in these early days, when the Father was using Moshe to keep anywhere between 3 and 5 million people in line, they needed to make an example. And so the Lord had said through Moses, look, this day is my day. You don't do these things on my day. This is how you keep my day. And so they found a guy out gathering sticks, and they said they didn't know what to do with him, which is why they put him in basically a holding cell. They put him under guard, okay, because they had not been explained what should be done to him. So they're like, we haven't encountered this before. Now what do we do? And so the Father spoke to Moses and said, surely you got to put this guy to death. You need to put this guy to death so that we can make an example of him in front of all these other people, that they will keep my commandments. So he was literally and physically and, figuratively cut off from his people. He was stoned to death by his people. That is not a very pleasant thing to think about, but it illustrates the importance of keeping Shabbat, of keeping the Sabbath, which is why we do that now. This is the only thing that I do on the Sabbath. I don't shoot any other videos on the Sabbath. I have no interest in making any money on the Sabbath. We don't conduct business on the Sabbath. We don't build fires on the Sabbath. We read this word. We love on each other as a family. And I mean, Harmony and I, since sundown yesterday, from about 8:30 till 11, just sat on the couch, drank some delicious mead, thank you, Gordy, and had some deep theological and philosophical conversation, and just thoroughly enjoyed each other's company. And it wasn't just us. The Spirit was in the room. It was a beautiful thing. So we keep the Shabbat, and I'm very thankful that Pastor Joe took the time to point this out to me, because we are still learning. And I want to be clear on that. I'm not an authority on anything, especially the words in this book. I just try and read what the Father says here. So when somebody points me on a more correct path, I'm very appreciative of that, because these things can have eternal consequences. So finally, Numbers 15:37, tassels on the garments. Again the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the children of Israel. Tell them to make tassels on the corners of their garments throughout their generations, and put a blue thread in the tassels of the corners. And you shall have the tassel, that you may look upon it and remember all the commandments of the Lord, and do them, and that you may not follow the harlotry to which your own heart and your own eyes are inclined, that you may remember to do all my commandments and be holy, sanctified, set apart for your God. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am the Lord your God." Okay. Do I really need to expand on that? He says, look, you're going to wear these things because you're going to have a physical reminder, something that you can look at and that you can feel, that will remind you every time you see them that your job is to shut this down and be focused on this. That's why I wear the tassels. That's why I wear the tzitziot. And it's an honor to me that such a strong a brother as Brother Roger handed me the ones that I have. It's like if we were in battle and a great warrior handed you a sword, it's that real to me. And it raises questions to people that don't know. And there's people who say that we don't need to wear them anymore. And regardless of whether or not that portion of the law has been done away with, which can be argued by many other people for until Yeshua comes again, right? Regardless of whether or not you have to do it, you should do it. Because I have found that it has made me more mindful of what I think about, what I'm doing, physically doing, and what I need to be thinking about, what I need to be focused on. So, do you have to wear the tzitziot? Yes. Do this for all generations. Well, until the generations stop, yes, we need to wear the tzitzi. Should you wear the tzitzi? If you are pursuing a deeper and more meaningful relationship with the Father, with Yah, and you are trying to be more mindful of your temporal brokenness and get more in line with His will for your life, then my answer to you is yes, you should wear the tzitzi. And so with that, Shabbat Shalom. I love you guys, and we'll talk soon. Be blessed.